Welcome back, listeners. Tonight, we're going to delve into the shadowy depths of Japanese folklore, a story that has sent chills down spines for centuries. A tale whispered in hushed tones, a story so deeply ingrained in Japanese culture. Are you ready to take a deep dive into Banchō Sarayashiki, the dish mansion in Bancho?
Banchō Sarayashiki. It's not your run-of-the-mill ghost story. This one delves deeper than just things that go bump in the night. It offers a glimpse into the soul of Edo period Japan, a window into the anxieties and power dynamics that shaped people's lives back then.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. What was life like during that era?
Imagine Japan between the 1600s and 1800s. This period, known as the Edo period, was a time of strict societal hierarchy. The samurai occupied the top rung, and everyone else had their designated place on this rigid ladder. Stepping out of line, well, that could have dire consequences.
So where does our story fit into this picture?
Our story unfolds within the household of Oyama Shuzen, a powerful police chief notorious for his ruthlessness. He's a man who understands power and wields it without hesitation. Then there's Okiku, a young servant girl who was practically raised within the confines of his home.
I have a feeling this isn't going to end well for Okiku. Just the power imbalance alone is palpable.
You're reading the signs correctly. One day, amidst her daily chores, Okiku makes a mistake. It's a simple human error. One of 10 precious porcelain dishes slips from her grasp, shattering into pieces.
It seems like a minor mishap, a broken dish. Why such a severe reaction from someone like Shuzen?
Remember, we're in Edo period Japan. Order and obedience were paramount. A broken dish wasn't just a broken dish, it represented a disruption of order, a challenge to Shuzen's authority.
So what happens next? Does Okiku try to conceal her mistake?
Terrified, she confesses to Shuzen's wife, hoping for mercy. But Shuzen is not a man who extends mercy. He is a man of strict order, and her actions demand punishment. A chilling, calculated punishment intended to instill absolute obedience.
This is where the story takes a truly dark turn, isn't it? Tell me what Shuzen does.
He orders Okiku to be bound, and every day he severs one of her fingers. This went beyond mere punishment. It was a display of power. Each severed finger served as a stark reminder to everyone in the household of the consequences of defying Shuzen.
That's horrific. How does Okiku escape this torment?
Okiku, in a moment of desperate defiance, manages to break free from her bonds and chooses a terrifying escape. She throws herself down a well, choosing death over Shuzen's torturous punishment.
You can almost hear the echo of her screams, can't you?
But her death doesn't mark the end of the story, it's just the beginning of a new kind of torment. A haunting begins. Every night, a chilling voice rises from the well, counting each dish. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. And then silence. A silence broken only by gut-wrenching sobs.
Okiku's spirit eternally searching for that missing 10th dish. It's a chilling image.
Yeah.
But why does this story gain such widespread popularity? Why does it endure?
Think about it. A young woman wronged a powerful man, haunted by his actions, and a restless spirit seeking solace. These themes deeply resonate with audiences. But it's more than that. The story tapped into the very real anxieties of the time. The fear of those in power, the dread of committing even the smallest mistake, the ever-present threat of cruel and unusual punishment.
So the story becomes an outlet, a way to explore those anxieties and fears within the safe confines of fiction. But this is just the beginning. The story of Okiku doesn't remain confined to hushed whispers. It evolves, finding its way onto the stage right.
Precisely. It transforms into a cautionary tale, a theatrical spectacle. But the way the story was told, the interpretations, those evolved too, mirroring the changing times and sensibilities of Japanese society.
So let's delve into that evolution. Tell me about how Okiku's story took to the stage and captivated audiences in a whole new way.
Okiku's story found a home in various forms of Japanese theater. We're talking bunraku, puppet theater that brought the characters to life with these intricate movements. And then there's ningyujururi, which combines puppets with dramatic chanting and music, sort of like an opera, but with puppets. And of course, kabuki.
Now, kabuki. That's something I've heard of, but could you give us a quick rundown?
Picture this. Elaborate costumes, dramatic makeup, stylized movements, and powerful storytelling. That's kabuki, in essence. It was like the blockbuster movie experience of its day.
And with its tragedy and haunting elements, Okiku's story must have been a perfect fit for the kabuki stage.
Absolutely. The visual spectacle, the emotional intensity, the themes of revenge and justice, they were all tailor-made for kabuki. But the story didn't stop evolving there. In 1916, playwright Kido Okamoto took things in a new direction.
What did Okamoto do differently? What made his adaptation so significant?
Okamoto shifted the focus. He retained the core elements of the story, but instead of focusing solely on horror, he delved into the psychology of the characters. He wanted to explore what motivated their actions, the complexities of guilt and vengeance.
So it seems like he added a whole new dimension to the story, going beyond the supernatural and exploring the realm of human emotions.
Precisely. And this shift reflected a larger trend in Japanese storytelling. People were becoming more interested in the inner workings of the human mind, the reasons behind our choices.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Why did Okiku confess? Was it purely out of terror, or was there a deeper reason? What drove Shuzen to such cruelty? Was it solely about maintaining order, or was there something more sinister at play? Okamoto's adaptation really compels us to ask these questions.
And those explorations of human nature are part of what gives this story its enduring power. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, to acknowledge the potential for darkness that exists within us all.
But we can't discuss Okiku's lasting impact without mentioning something else. A connection to modern horror, something more familiar to many of our listeners. You mentioned Ringu earlier.
Yes, Ringu and its American remake, The Ring. Those films are practically saturated with the influence of Banchō Sarayashiki. I bet certain images are already popping into your head. A well, a ghostly figure with long, dark hair, a creeping sense of dread.
You're right, those images are iconic even if you haven't seen the films. But it goes beyond just visuals, doesn't it? There are deeper thematic connections.
Absolutely. Both stories revolve around the idea of a wrong committed, a life unjustly taken, and a spirit that refuses to rest. Think about Okiku, her brutal treatment and tragic death fueling the haunting. Her spirit trapped in that well, desperately seeking that missing 10th dish, a completion that mirrors her own dismemberment.
And in Ringu, there's Serako, a young girl with psychic powers who is misunderstood and ultimately murdered her body discarded down a well. The parallels to Okiku's story are undeniable.
It's as if the well becomes this conduit, this bridge between the world of the living and the restless dead, a place of secrets, of violent ends, and of ultimate reckoning.
And what about the curse? Okiku's nightly count reaching that chilling silence at 9. It's a haunting ritual, a constant reminder of her suffering.
And Ringu presents its own modern take on that cursed videotape. Watch it, and your fate is sealed. You have 7 days to live. It's like a technological update to the classic ghost story formula, but the underlying message remains the same. Some wrongs can't be undone, and some spirits won't find peace until justice, however twisted, is served.
It's fascinating how both stories tap into those primal fears. Okiku's story speaks to the fear of those in power, of the potential for abuse and the repercussions of even minor transgressions.
While Ringu plays on our anxieties about technology, about the media we consume, and the possibility that those images, those stories could hold power over us, it's a fear that's become even more relevant in the age of the internet.
What I find striking is how, despite being separated by centuries, both stories masterfully utilize suggestion. Okiku's ghostly count doesn't explicitly threaten anyone, but it creates this atmosphere of unease, this chilling reminder that her spirit is present and unsettled.
And in Ringu, the videotape doesn't explicitly show how its victims will die, but the imagery is disturbing enough to sow those seeds of fear to initiate a psychological countdown that culminates in their demise.
It's that power of suggestion, that lingering sense of dread that makes these stories stay with you long after you've experienced them. Makes you look twice at every well you pass, doesn't it?
And it makes you question the stories you consume, the images you allow into your mind. But Okiku's influence doesn't stop there. Her story continues to appear in other forms of Japanese horror, like manga, anime, and video games.
A true testament to its enduring power.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? What is it about Okiku's story that continues to resonate with audiences even today?
I think it's because it speaks to a fundamental human desire for justice, for balance. It serves as a reminder that actions have consequences that extend beyond the grave.
And maybe it offers a bit of catharsis as well, especially in a world where injustice often goes unpunished. It allows us to explore those dark aspects of human nature, to confront our fears within the safe confines of fiction.
That's a great point. We're drawn to these stories because they provide a way for us to process complex emotions, to grapple with questions of morality and consequence without having to directly experience them.
But there's one more thing I want to touch on before we wrap up: the power of storytelling itself. Banchō Sarayashiki, through its numerous adaptations and reinterpretations, highlights the enduring power of stories. Their ability to convey cultural values, explore complex emotions, and connect us across generations.
They're like threads woven through history, carrying with them cultural values, beliefs, and fears. They offer a window into the past, allowing us to see ourselves reflected in the experiences of those who came before us.
And as we navigate this increasingly digital age, an age where information overload threatens to drown out the whispers of the past, it's more crucial than ever to remember the power of these stories, to keep them alive, and to glean wisdom from them.
Exactly. These stories are more than just entertainment. They're cultural artifacts, repositories of human experience. They provide glimpses into different ways of seeing the world, different ways of understanding ourselves.
So as we delve deeper into Okiku's story and its impact, I want you to bear that in mind. These stories are more than just spooky tales. They reflect who we are, what we fear, and what we hope for. So we've covered the historical backdrop, the story's evolution, and how it's influenced modern horror. But what's the takeaway here? Why does the story of Okiku, this servant girl from centuries past, continue to captivate and frighten us today?
It's a question that sticks with you, isn't it? Like a shadow that trails you home after you've heard a chilling tale late at night. On one level, it's the power of a well-told story. The eerie imagery, the mystery, the fear of the unknown. Those elements are universal. They resonate with something deep within us, no matter our background or the time we live in.
It's almost as if we're wired for these kinds of stories, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a part of us that can't help but look over our shoulder, always anticipating that bump in the night.
Exactly. But I think there's more to it than just simple chills and thrills. Okiku's story and those it's inspired touch upon our sense of justice, our empathy for the wronged, and our fear of those who abuse their power.
It serves as a reminder that actions have consequences that go beyond the grave, that even the most powerful aren't exempt from the laws of karma, in a sense.
Precisely. And in a world where injustice often goes unpunished, these stories offer a form of catharsis. They allow us to envision a world where wrongs are made right, where even those in power are held accountable for their deeds.
It's as though these stories give a voice to those who have been silenced, allowing us to confront our own fears and anxieties in a safe fictional realm.
That's a profound observation. There's one last aspect I want to touch upon, the role of storytelling itself. Banchō Sarayashiki, through its countless adaptations and reinterpretations, really emphasizes the enduring power of stories. Their capacity to transmit cultural values, delve into complex emotions, and bridge generations.
It's like these stories are threads that connect us to bygone eras, allowing us to understand ourselves and the world we inhabit through the lens of those who came before us.
As we progress further into this digital age, an age where information overload threatens to drown out the whispers of the past, it becomes even more vital to remember the power these stories hold, to keep them alive, and to extract wisdom from them.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the chilling tale of Banchō Sarayashiki, I'd like to leave you with this thought. The next time you come across a ghost story, be it a centuries-old folktale or a modern horror film, take a moment to reflect on what lies beneath the surface. What fears and anxieties does it tap into? What cultural values does it mirror? And what does it reveal about the human condition, our capacity for both cruelty and compassion?
Because within those shadows, you might stumble upon a flicker of truth, a reflection of ourselves in the world we exist in. And who knows? You might even